Now let us move to odontogenic cyst. Now cyst is a cavity, pathological cavity, which may or may not be lined by an epithelium and which is filled with fluid, semi-fluid or a gaseous substance. Now if the cyst is lined by an epithelium, it is called as a true cyst. When it is not lined by an epithelium, it is called as a pseudocyst. There are already aneurysmal bone cyst is a pseudocyst, mucocele is a pseudocyst, extravasation type that madam has already discussed. So we are going to see only true cyst today, and that too few of them. Now classification of odontogenic cyst, which is given in Schaeffer, you must write, because always question is asked, define cyst, 2 marks, classify cyst, maybe for 3 marks. Or classify odontogenic cyst and then discuss one of these cysts. Okay, so classification is very important. Basically, odontogenic cysts are classified into developmental and inflammatory type. So inflammatory type is a radicular cyst, which is the most common type of a cyst. So here in this photomicrograph of it is seen, cystic epithelium is seen. This is the lumen of the cyst and this is the connect tissue capsule of the cyst. Now let us discuss dentigerous cyst. Dentigerous cyst is the cyst which is found associated with the impacted tooth, and since the mandibular third molar is the most commonly impacted tooth, dentigerous cyst is commonly found in the associated with impacted mandibular third molar. Rarely or very seldomly it is associated with deciduous tooth. Cyst is developed by accumulation of fluid between reduced enamel epithelium and the tooth surface. So whenever you study this dentigerous cyst microscopically, the lining, epithelial lining of the dentigerous cyst looks like reduced enamel epithelium. Site is mandibular and maxillary third molars, followed by maxillary canines. Then they are common in young individual, that is second and third decade of life. They are slightly more common in men. Mostly they are solitary. Sometimes there are bilateral dentigerous cysts found. If they are bilateral dentigerous cysts, then you will have to rule out some syndromes like cleidocranial dysplasia and Marotex-Lamy syndrome. There is radiolucency associated with the crown, and this radiolucency should be greater than 5 millimeters to call it as a cyst. If it is less than 5 millimeters, then it could be a normal follicular space found around the unerupted tooth. There are 3 radiological variations of dentigerous cyst found, that is central, lateral and circumferential. So let us see what are they. So this is the central dentigerous cyst, which is found around the crown of an impacted tooth. The border of the cyst are always at C junction. Lateral, here this cyst is also found around the crown, but the radiolucency or the cyst lies more on one side of the tooth. That's why it is called as lateral. But the border of the cyst are always at the neck of the tooth. Circumferential dentigerous cyst is a cyst where the radiolucency surrounds almost the entire tooth, but the borders are always at the neck of the tooth. So there are 3 radiologic variants of dentigerous cyst: central, lateral and circumferential. So this is the central variety, third molar, which is impacted and there is a large radiolucency associated with it. This is a lateral variety. It is, since this tooth is impacted in a mesioangular fashion, there is a radiolucency on the mesial aspect, and this is the lateral variety. And this is the circumferential variety. Entire tooth is surrounded by the cyst, but the borders of the cyst are at the neck of the tooth. This is the gross specimen, enucleated cyst. This is the cavity and this is the impacted tooth. The microscopic picture of dentigerous cyst is very, very characteristic. As it is mentioned that the borders of the cyst are always at the neck. So this is a specimen with decalcified tooth. This is the lumen of the cyst. And see the lining, epithelial lining looks like reduced enamel epithelium, very thin, just 2 to 3 cell layer thick. Epithelial lining thin, and this is the connect tissue capsule of the cyst, which is fibrocellular. This is the lumen of the cyst. Now sometimes there is mucous metaplasia found in the lining of the cyst, and why we need to know that there could be mucus cells found in the lining of the dentigerous cyst, because from these mucus cells sometimes salivary gland tumor develops, that is a malignant salivary gland tumor, mucoepidermoid carcinoma. So one has to be very, very careful while studying the dentigerous cyst microscopically. Although we can diagnose dentigerous cyst radiographically, the confirmation by histopathological examination is mandatory, because even ameloblastoma develops in the lining of the dentigerous cyst, which we have already discussed. Vickers-Gorlin criteria. In that case, these basal cells become tall columnar. There is polarization and palisading of the cells. The upper cells become like stellate reticulum, and then there could be mural ameloblastoma, luminal or intraluminal ameloblastoma. Also, since this epithelium is a stratified squamous epithelium, stratified squamous cell carcinoma also can be seen developing from the lining of this cyst. So one has to be very, very careful. So complications. So if your note is written in your paper about complications of dentigerous cyst, your examiner will become very, very happy. And he will give you additional 2 marks, because then we know that you have actually studied this topic very seriously. So what are the complications of dentigerous cyst? Ameloblastoma can grow in the cyst. Epidermoid carcinoma, that is squamous cell carcinoma, can grow in the cyst, or mucoepidermoid carcinoma also can grow in the cyst. Treatment is surgical removal with microscopic examination. Next, odontogenic developmental cyst is odontogenic keratocyst. It is called as keratocyst because this is the cyst which produces keratin on the surface of the epithelium. And again, this cyst is very significant because it has a tendency to recur. So which is the most recurrent type of a cyst? So this is the cyst. Odontogenic keratocyst is the most recurrent type of a cyst. This cyst also can develop from cell rest of serrage or from basal cells of the surface epithelium, or by degeneration of stellate reticulum of enamel organ itself. In that case, tooth does not develop, and then that type of odontogenic keratocyst is known as replacemental type of odontogenic keratocyst, or also known as primordial cyst. This cyst has got bimodal age incidence. It either develops at very young age or also could be found in elders. So although it is written that it's most common during second and third decade of life, it has got bimodal age incidence, slightly more common in men, slightly more common in mandible, common in the molar ramus area of the mandible. There could be mild pain, soft tissue or hard tissue swelling, expansion of bone, paresthesia if the cyst becomes very large. Radiographically, there could be unilocular or multilocular radiolucency with smooth or scallop borders, and radiographic variants of this cyst are replacemental. When the cyst replaces the tooth, when the tooth is missing and in place of the tooth cyst develops, it is called as replacemental type. Envelopmental type cyst is the cyst which envelops the erupting tooth, is envelopmental. Extraneous type of OKC develops in the ascending ramus, that is out of the tooth bearing area, and collateral odontogenic keratocyst develops between the roots of adjacent teeth. That's why it is called as collateral. So this is a small OKC found between roots of posterior molars. This is the OKC again with scallop borders. These are scallop borders. This scalloping is usually seen extending between roots of adjacent teeth, and this is one of the reasons why this cyst is recurrent in nature. Because of this scalloping, removal of the cyst along with the borders becomes difficult. And this is a envelopmental type of a cyst, as it is enveloping the tooth, and this tooth has almost pushed towards the inferior border of the mandible. Histology of this cyst is very, very peculiar, very specific. We don't miss this cyst when we study it microscopically. The epithelium is thin. The thickness is maybe 8 to 10 cell layer thick. The epithelial connect tissue junction is flat without any retipex. And the basal cells are tall columnar. Their nuclei are hyperchromatic. There is palisading of cells giving tombstone and picket fence appearance. Again, a very common feature of, or very popular feature of OKC, tombstone or picket fence appearance of basal cells. The surface is covered with parakeratin. and it is corrugated. This is another feature, corrugated keratin. Lumen of the cyst is filled with the keratin. This is another photograph where epithelium is seen separating from the connective tissue because there are no red apex, and this is another reason why cyst is recurrent in nature, because it easily separates from the underlying connective tissue, and sometimes and that's why the epithelium becomes friable and sometimes remains in the jaw bones after enucleation of the cyst, and then there is recurrence of the cyst. This is a higher magnification. Flat epithelial connective tissue junction, tombstone or picket fence appearance. This is orthokeratinized OKC. There is a thick layer of orthokeratin, epithelium is thin, this picket fence appearance is little less or it is sometimes missing, and these orthokeratinized OKCs are less recurrent in nature as compared to parakeratinized OKC. Now in the connective tissue we can see satellite cysts. These are daughter cysts or microcysts or small cysts found in the connective tissue. So this is another reason why cyst could be recurrent. While removing the cyst, if some of these microcysts or daughter cysts or satellite cysts remain in the jawbone, they grow and form the new cysts. So and this is another reason for recurrence of the cyst. These are epithelial cell rests found in the wall of the odontogenic keratocyst. Lumen has straw color fluid, and the characteristic feature of this fluid is the protein content of this fluid is less than 4 grams per 100 ml. In case of radicular cyst, this protein content is greater than 5 gram or greater than 6-7 grams per 100 ml. And if you study this protein content, you will know whether it is odontogenic keratocyst or some other cyst. Treatment is marsupialization or enucleation. The recurrence of this cyst is high when it is present at the angle because of the pattern of bone there. If the cyst is parakeratinized, it is more recurrent in nature. If it is associated with the Gorlin-Goltz syndrome, then it is again recurrent in nature. If it is not removed in one pieces because the epithelium is very friable, epithelial connective tissue junction is flat, then also it is recurrent in nature. If the fistula develops in the cyst will recur. And if there is, if the cyst is multilocular in appearance or there are multiple locules, it could be more recurrent compared to the unilocular cyst. Some cysts, they have tendency to recur. Satellite cysts are also responsible for recurrence. The fragile epithelium is responsible for recurrence. Now the mitotic index of epithelial cells of this cyst is very, very high. As high as some benign neoplasms, and that's why in between this was classified under some odontogenic tumors and not under cyst, but again it is reverted back. Now odontogenic keratocyst is a cyst and not a tumor. Now Gorlin-Goltz syndrome, this is a syndrome which is associated with multiple odontogenic keratocyst, multiple basal cell carcinomas and bifid rib. It was reported by Gorlin-Goltz in 1960. It is autosomal dominant condition. There are skin lesions, there are jaw lesions, there are skeletal lesions, there is frontal bossing, there is ocular hypertelorism. And there are multiple basal cell carcinomas, multiple dermal cysts, there is palmar pitting, palmar plantar keratosis is found, dermal calcinosis is found, there are multiple odontogenic keratocysts found, there is mild mandibular prognathism. There are rib and vertebral anomalies, and there is hypertelorism. Congenital blindness is found sometimes. There could be mental retardation, dural calcifications, congenital hydrocephalus, medulloblastomas, hypogonadism, and ovarian tumors. So this Gorlin-Goltz syndrome is also asked for a short note many a times, or it may be asked in your MCQs. So as it is associated with odontogenic keratocyst, you must know about Gorlin-Goltz syndrome. So this is the basal cell carcinoma. Madam has already discussed that it has got rolled border. So, and there are multiple basal cell carcinomas found in these people with this syndrome. Next cyst, which is the most common cyst of jaw bones, is a radicular cyst. It is called as radicular cyst because it is associated with the root of the tooth. That's why called as radicular cyst. It is also known as apical periodontal cyst. It is an inflammatory type of odontogenic cyst. It is not a developmental, but it is an inflammatory type of a cyst. It is associated with the non-vital tooth. So there is a infected tooth due to dental caries. The infection spreads to pulp. From pulp it spreads to the root apex. Then from there is periapical inflammation. In the periodontal ligament there are cell rest of Malassez found. There is stimulation of this cell rest of Malassez which leads to proliferation of these cells. There is periapical granuloma in which the cell rest of Malassez are proliferating. The central area undergoes necrosis, and finally you get a cavity which is filled with necrotic material or fluid and lined by this epithelium formed from cell rest of Malassez. So it is something like this. This is the root of the tooth. This is the root canal. From there the infection is spreading to the periapical area. There is inflammatory reaction here. Here these are the cell rest of Malassez proliferating, and they are surrounding this inflammatory inflamed connective tissue. After some time this connective tissue gets deprived of blood supply and starts undergoing degeneration, and you have a cavity, and the cavity develops which is lined by the epithelium which is formed from cell rest of Malassez and which is filled with the fluid. So there is initiation of the cyst, there is formation of the cyst, and there is enlargement of the cyst. Once this cyst is formed, the osmotic pressure of the cystic fluid is high. It's attracted towards the cyst and the cyst gets enlarged. Also, there are certain collagenolytic enzymes, prostaglandins released, and that results in the enlargement of the cyst. Now this is a cyst common in third to fifth decade of life, common rare in deciduous teeth, more common in men, supposedly common in maxilla. There are three phases of cyst enlargement which we have already studied. Radiographically, there is a radiolucency associated with the non-vital tooth, and this radiolucency should be larger than 2 centimeters. If it is less than 2 centimeters, then it could be called as periapical granuloma. So there is a large radiolucency associated with this non-vital tooth, root canal filled tooth, but this root canal is incompletely filled. So maybe there is recurrence and there is cyst formation. And here there is a cyst associated with the mandibular incisor, and here since there is some fracture or caries involving the pulp that resulted into periapical infection, it should be larger than 2 centimeters to call it as a cyst. If it is smaller, then it could be a granuloma. The microscopic picture of this cyst is also very peculiar. It is non-keratinized epithelium, and the epithelium is sometimes 5 to 20 cell layer thick. And there is proliferation of the epithelium leading to arcading pattern. So this is all arcading pattern. The epithelium is irregularly proliferating and trapping the connective tissue in between. So this is called as arcading pattern. This is the lumen of the cyst, and this is the connective tissue wall of the cyst, which is infiltrated with chronic inflammatory cells. So this is again cystic epithelium. This is arcading pattern. This is connective tissue, and this is the lumen. In the cystic fluid, if we observe cystic fluid against light, we can see some shimmering bodies, crystals. They are called as cholesterol crystals. Cholesterol crystals is not a characteristic feature of radicular cyst, but they are found in radicular cyst. Wherever there is inflammation, these crystals are found. And the characteristic feature of these crystals is they have a notched border. They have one of the borders which is notched. So also in the epithelial lining of this cyst, we find eosinophilic amorphous bodies of various shape. They could be hairpin-like, or they are circular, or they are laminar bodies, and they are called as Rushton bodies. These Rushton bodies, again there could be a small question asked in the short note or SAQ, write a note on Rushton bodies. So these Rushton bodies are found in the epithelial lining of radicular cyst, and they are eosinophilic amorphous bodies, and they are thought to be hematogenous in origin, or they are thought to be a type of keratin. So this is higher magnification of Rushton bodies. They are of different shapes. Some are concentric, some are linear, hairpin-like. They are linear, straight, curved, hairpin shaped, concentrically laminated. The cyst has a fibrous capsule which is infiltrated with chronic inflammatory cells like lymphocytes and mast cells and foamy macrophages. There are cholesterol clefts found. And the treatment is endodontic treatment of the tooth. After that, surgical removal of the cyst. Next cyst is calcifying epithelial odontogenic cyst. This is a developmental cyst again, but it is very less common type of cyst found in jawbones. But still, there are ghost cells found in this cyst, so they are very popular cells for everybody, for students as well as teachers also. So we must know what are these ghost cells. So now in the terminology itself, it is mentioned that it is a calcifying cyst. So there must be calcification seen in the cyst. That's why it is called as calcifying epithelial odontogenic cyst. It is also known as Gorlin cyst or Gorlin-Gault cyst. It's again common in young individuals during their second and third decade of life, and there is no gender. It's common in both the genders equally, and there is intraosseous painless swelling is there. There is radiolucency with well-defined borders with foci of radiopacities. So something like this, there is a radiolucency. Now here, this is maxillary COC, where the canine is impacted and there is a radiolucency with radiopacities in it. So it looks like AOT or some other odontogenic tumor. Histologically, as I said, these ghost cells are there. There is the epithelium, which with basal cells looking like amyloblast and the surface cells looking like stellate reticulum. And in this stellate reticulum cells, some of the cells start undergoing degeneration. The cell outline is very faint. The cell is larger. Nuclear outline is very faint, and there is the aberrant keratinization of these cells. And because the nuclear outline and nucleus is not visible and the cells are light pink in color, they are called as ghost cells. Also, they are larger. And some of these ghost cells, they undergo dystrophic calcifications. Ghost cells are also seen in odontomas. They are seen in amyloblastomas, mostly craniopharyngiomas, which are also known as Rathke's pouch tumors. And they are also found in amyloblastic fibroodontomas. They contain nuclear remnants. They also contain cytoplasmic organelles, remnants of cytoplasmic organelles, and numerous tonofilaments. So all these are ghost cells. So this is the cystic epithelium. Basal cells, they are columnar, look like amyloblast. The surface cells look like stellate reticulum, and then there are ghost cells. So this ghost cells is the diagnostic feature of CEOC. And some of the ghost cells are undergoing calcification, dystrophic calcifications. So treatment is enucleation and curettage.